Joining us now on the line is Congressman Frank Wolf, Republican of Virginia. Congressman, good morning to you. We are so happy to have you with us.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
Let me just lay out something here. This morning there is a story in the New York Times, of all places, that says that the Obama administration is considering actually sending U.S. officials down to Honduras to interrogate and to interview young people who want to come to this country and to make this possible so that they don't have to cross Mexico on an emergency humanitarian basis. That is what the Obama administration is focused on right now, going to Honduras, screening kids, and making it possible for them to be brought into the United States on an emergency humanitarian basis. Meanwhile, there is a humanitarian crisis underway in Iraq that you've been talking about that should concern every American, given the fact that we've spent so much blood and treasure there. You're concerned that Christians are being systematically persecuted inside Iraq.
Well, Brian, it's worse than persecuted. It is now officially genocide. It is genocide. It meets the definition of the UN. It meets the definition that Raphael Lemkin developed back in the late 40s. The systematic, killing and moving. The stories that are coming out are horrendous. I met with a patriarch from the region yesterday. People are being forced to convert, particularly the elderly. Christian homes are spraying the N on the word, which means Nazarene, basically. And the Obama administration doesn't say anything. In fact, there's an ambassador for religious freedom. The vacancy, the post has been vacant for over 6 months, and the president's on vacation or doing fundraisers. We are ready to see the end of Christianity in the Middle East, particularly in Iraq. And when you say that, keep in mind, more biblical activity took place in Iraq than any other country of the world other than Israel. Abraham was born in Ur, which is the city of Nasiriyah. Ezekiel is buried there. Daniel is buried in Iraq. Esther in the Bible for such a time like this is in Iraq. Jonah, Nineveh. In fact, they tell me they just destroyed 3 days ago Jonah's tomb. They were hitting it with sledgehammers and it destroyed it. Christianity, as we now know it, is being ended in that region. And this administration says nothing, nor does the Congress say anything. Now, the New York Times did a good piece. The Wall Street Journal did a good piece. There's been some coverage, but frankly, the media is missing this story.
Congressman, this is Katie Pavlich. Thanks so much for being on the show. You're talking a lot about how the administration hasn't said anything, and we're seeing a severe persecution of Christians not only in Iraq, but we've seen persecution of Christians over the past couple of years increase significantly in the Middle East and in Northern Africa. With regards to Iraq, though, do you think anything is going to be done, or do you think that ISIS is just going to be able to march on with thousands of Christians fleeing or being killed as a result? I mean, is this the end here, or is there any plan in place to stop this from happening?
As of now, there is no plan. There are things that can be done. One, we should thank the Kurds for defending the Christians. Many have fled. Most of them. This is 3 Sundays ago was the first time in 1,600 years that Mass was not said in Mosul. The Kurds are now defending them. Secondly, there's no water and things like that in some of the areas they're going into. You could take some of the money we're given to the Maliki government. Maliki airlifted all of the Shia out of Mosul but left the Christians. We could put pressure on the Maliki government. We could have an NGO that would aid. There's a lot of things that could be done. But they're not doing anything. They tell me, the patriarch told me this, these people are just wandering around. They have no water, they have no food, they have no electricity, and they're fleeing for their life. And we are seeing the Christian community has gone from 1.5 million in about 2003 down to about 200 to 225,000. We're seeing similar, not same, but the Coptic Christians have a very difficult time in Egypt. We hope with the new government that will change, but we're not sure. We also see Syria. I mean, Paul couldn't take the road from Jerusalem to Damascus because the road is blocked. You can't go. And the administration doesn't really seem to care. We have lost, there used to be in this town kind of a coalition, Ronald Reagan, Scoop Jackson, people like that, who always advocated for human rights and religious freedom. It seems to be gone in this town.
Well, talk about though the sort of the difference that the Obama administration, how they look at it. I mean, they're more interested in the kids in Honduras as a humanitarian crisis than the systematic persecution of Christians inside Iraq. Now, you talk about genocide, and you have provided the actual legal definition of genocide. And I got to tell you, there are 5 points. Killing members of the group, check. Causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, check. Deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part, check. Imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group. Forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. All of these things are the definition of genocide, and it is occurring, and they're saying absolutely nothing about it.
It's hard to understand. Now, I do believe the church in the West, religious leaders in the West, and human rights activists in the West are going to speak out. And maybe that's the problem. Maybe they haven't said enough to put pressure on the administration. What takes place outside of Washington sometimes drives the agenda in Washington. But I think you can just say that we are ready to see in our lifetime the end of Christianity in Iraq and in the Middle East. And keep in mind, many of the Iraqi Christians, they're Assyrian, Chaldean, mainly Catholic, they speak the same language as Jesus. And when history writes it, when history says it will, the conscience of this administration, and frankly of the Congress, and with all due respect of the media, y'all missed it. They missed it. And once they go, they will not come back. The patriarch told me his young people are demoralized. They are demoralized. And I want to be clear. Many Sunni are coming up to the Christians and saying they are sorry with what is taking place. They are sorry with what is taking place. And they do not understand, in the Christian community in that region, they do not understand why the West is not advocating for. There are no words, let alone deeds. There are no words. And so we will see in this lifetime, we have gone from 1.5 million down to 250,000. We're going to see the end of Christianity in the Middle East.
Well, let me just say, Congressman Wolf, you're wrapping up your congressional career, and you have always been someone who stands in the well and raises your hand and says, wait a minute, we're missing this. And thank you for that, and thank you for raising this one and bringing it to our attention. We greatly appreciate it.
Well, thank you.